Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Emerald the Quilter, and today I have a special show to share with you. I visited one of my sister guilds called the Friendship Quilt Guild of Brenham, and the show that they had today is called Texas Trails. It was located at the Fireman's Training Center in Brenham, Texas, and I was so happy to take a drive over there because the drive is absolutely gorgeous. There's a lot of livestock on the way and fresh air and really tasty barbecue. Every year they host the show, and it's typically on a Friday and Saturday from either 10 to 5 or 10 to 4, and they have lots of vendors and lots of beautiful quilts. The Friendship Quilt Guild started in 1993. At their first show, they had about 300 people in attendance. And since then, they've grown into almost 1,000 people in attendance. One of the highlights of their show is the category called Challenge Quilts, and lots of people enter their quilted items into this exhibit. There's a lot of talent in this guild, and I absolutely love the variety of specially judged categories that they had. There were the group quilt category, which are items that have been constructed by more than one person. The new quilter, the art quilt, which there were 2 or 3 spectacular art quilts that are coming up in this show. Wearable art like the apron and the quilted jacket that were so lovely in this show. Specialty techniques, which means that more than one technique is used in the item. Miniature quilts, and then the non-judge exhibits, which included youth quilts too. A certified judge did come out to judge these quilts, and you can see that several of them won ribbons. Some earned cash prizes and some did not, but let's just take a look at how cute these handmade ribbons are. Some of them look like they're the kind that are purchased by a professional ribbon company, and then the rest are made by hand with cute decorative buttons. I just love those. And take a look at the itty bitty quilting on this Halloween quilt. It is so amazing. In this Christmas tree skirt, if you pause the video, you will see that the designer, after all the work, did not want to cut it up, and you can see that's why the middle of her tree skirt is still sewn together, because she's like, no, I'm not going to put this on the floor. And I don't blame her, because that tree skirt is amazing. Of course, I typically am most impressed with traditional style quilts or anything that is made with itty bitty pieces. But some of these art quilts, like that one that we just saw with the 4 ladies, blew my mind. It was so well made. And some of these quilts, I recognized the patterns before, like the one on the left with the birds. It's a popular pattern made with foundation paper piecing, but let's just admire the points on these stars really quick. Oh my goodness. The artist did such an amazing job with those tiny, tiny pieces. That looks like a pattern by the Fat Quarter Shop that came out a few years ago. And this one won a couple ribbons. And if you look closely, you can see that the design is very modern and it's very dense. I've never tried something like this before, and so great job to the artist for that one. This quilt was a beautiful quilt, pink and white and beautiful quilting. It looks like it had that fleur-de-lis style to it, but these here had beautiful designs on the quilting. While I was here at the show, I did do a little bit of shopping, and I made sure to go into every booth. A couple of them I have actually recorded in some of my other videos, so I stopped by all around the block, And I also stepped by the wooden spool, which I have recorded both before, and I was so happy to see some beautiful fabric choices. I ended up getting 2 Lori Holt design boards that were, I think, 20 or 25% off, so yay! I always try to look for something that I either need or don't have, so it kind of acts like a souvenir. And here is that quilted jacket that I mentioned. Isn't that awesome? I have one quilted jacket, but then every time I see a quilted jacket with beautiful patchwork on it, it always makes me want to make a new one. And they had these quilt displays that stand on the floor made of wood, like the one that we just saw with that hand quilted tulip quilt. And I need to get myself one because they're beautiful, and you can just drape, depending on what kind you get, 1 or 5, up to 5 quilts, and they're really beautiful and they do a great job of displaying your quilts. They had them on either end of every single row, so quite a few. I love the navy. It's like a teal navy, so it's not really quite navy for that background. Anytime I see a quilt with a background color that is not white or cream, always draws my attention. Here's a beautiful panel quilt. I have yet to make myself one, which I have no reason not to, because panel quilts can go by pretty quickly. Ooh, and I love these tulip pink fabrics. I have that bird on white with the rainbows. I have some of that. I think I have like 4 yards. And then, ooh, I wish I knew the name of that design with that bird on there, because I have seen that kind of quilting technique before, where you cut out a certain piece of the fabric over and over and over, and you make like a shape out of it to give it a kaleidoscope look. It's very cool, and in fact I saw some of those at the International Quilt Festival, very well done with sparkles on them. It was amazing, and I think a class is offered for that, so I need to figure out where that is, because it does not look easy to make at all. This quilt is beautiful and cheery. I love the aqua with the red on it and the busy background. Oh, and they're butterflies. This patriotic quilt won 2 awards. It won a 2nd place ribbon, and it also won an award for Judges' Choice. And I think this quilt very much deserves it, because those stars are different low volumes. Like, the creator did a beautiful job of using something other than just plain white for the stars. Oh, and I love this tulip pink butterfly. I have seen that before. That is not an easy quilt to make. And here's another quilt with panels in it, except that instead of just using one large panel, there's lots of itty bitty little panels in there. Some of the quilts at this show were charity quilts. The Friendship Quilt Guild actually donates to many different charities. So they donate to hospices. They donated quilts to the children of the Bastrop Fire back in 2011. They donate quilts to the homeless, Oklahoma tornado victims. They've donated quilts to families that were in need and to nursing homes. The guild members are very much involved in the community, which is so wonderful. I really enjoyed this boutique that we just saw. They had a lot of beautiful batiks and moda prints to pick from, and I did my best, and I'm pretty sure I did visit all of the vendors. They were all around the block. Harvey Fisher Scissor Sharpening, Stamps by Kate, which was so cool. So Stamps by Kate offers a different way to prepare your fabrics for English paper piecing, except with no paper. So it's not really English paper piecing. Basically what you do is you take like a stencil, you dip it into ink just like a stamp, and then you stamp the back of your fabric. And the stamp ink is acid free, it can be archived, it doesn't bleed through, and it provides you with a 1/4-inch seam, and so you just cut on the dotted line, and then you can either hand sew if you're working with small pieces, or with those larger pieces, it's convenient enough for you to just sew them on your machine. And so it takes out the labor of glue basting or sewing basting and then having to rip out your papers later. So it's just another way to do it, and I had never seen it before. Some of the other vendors were Making Memories Quilt Shop, W. Walters, Sewback City, Cupcake Quilts, which had such a happy vibe to them. Cupcake Quilts is one of the places that I want to visit to because it's not too far from where I live. I think maybe it's like 45 minutes away. And all the quilters that I've spoken to that have visited Cupcake Quilts always have lots of great things to say about them. Another booth that was there was Handmade by Heart, H-A-R-T, and that booth specialized in ice-dyed fabrics, and they were so cool. They're like tie-dyed. And there were all kinds of products, from scrunchies to socks and onesies, like just a lot of cute little things, including yards of fabric that you could buy. And a lot of them had a batik look to them, so if you wanted the more tie-dye look or a more batik look, they had something there for you. And the last two vendors that were there were the Wooden Spool and another one called The Boutique. So lots of fun, lots of things to shop for. Oh, and the quilting on this quilt is so fun. It was just the perfect design for this panel and make the perfect boy quilt. Now, if you watched my video on the airing of the quilt show with this guild, then you know that they had a raffle quilt going on, and it was spectacular. It was Texas themed, and it was made with applique and beautiful Texas themes on it. Well, they did a drawing for that today, and I got to hear who the winner was. She was not there, but they announced that they were going to call her. So congratulations to the winner of that beautiful quilt, because many hours were put into making that one, and I know it's going to be very well loved. They also had a few door prizes, which I did not win any, but that was okay. Being there at the show was more than enough because I had such a wonderful time. I always love looking at quilts because it gives me so much inspiration, and I love when I see things that make me want to push my own limits as a quilter, because so many of the techniques here in this show, like, I've never attempted. So I celebrate you, guild members of the Friendship Quilt Guild. You guys have amazing talent and truly a wonderful choice of fabric colors, everywhere from bright and bold to more traditional, soft, muted colors. Oh, and then we have to talk about this quilt. This quilt actually made me laugh. There's a story that goes with it. So you'll have to go back and pause the video to zoom in and see the story because it's really funny. And I love how so many of the quilts that include K fabrics all have very large units in them to highlight the large floral prints. And that particular quilt with like the purple and yellow, I saw like 2 or 3 versions of it, and I didn't even realize it was the same pattern until I went back around, because of course I went through this show like 2 or 3 times. It's amazing how changing colors and styles of fabric gives a completely different look to a quilt. This was a very fun Halloween/fall quilt. Love the quilting. The spider webs were just right. And this beautiful red and white quilt is the kind of quilt you want to snuggle up under your bed. Very well done. very fresh and snuggly. I loved it. And this quilter did a fantastic job of blending those different shades of pink, and they almost have like a little touch of purple, or maybe it's just the lighting, but the quilting is also amazing. That's why I zoomed in. And then this one is very modern. It almost makes me think like it's for like maybe it's university colors or sports colors, or it's for a man or something, because it had its vibe to it. And then this one is on my to-do list to make. So this quilter used flannel fabrics, and the rules of the show are that you are not allowed to touch quilts. And I wanted to touch this quilt so badly because it looks so soft. And it's made with jelly rolls. I could totally do that. We could all totally do that. And you see that Quilt Sampler quilt right there with the magazine? I think I have that pattern. And when I saw that, I was like, no, that's what it looks like in person? I have that magazine. It doesn't look like that in the magazine. It's like, oh, I have to go back home and I have to try it. And so I am just fueled with inspiration every time I attend a show. And then this quilt. This was my favorite quilt of the show. The small applique, the itty bitty pieces, all the colors were just right. Whoever you are that made that quilt, you did a spectacular job. I loved it so much. And then this quilt almost looks like it's a scrappy quilt, but actually I don't think that it is. But it was very happy and very cheery. Love the rainbow colors. So when you plan your trip to Brenham, Texas, there's a couple things that you're going to want to do on your way to either the airing of the Quilt Show or the Texas Trails Show. You're going to want to take the scenic route because there are lots of beautiful hills. Oh, and look at these two. These two quilts are art quilts, and I'm pretty sure that part of the fabric is painted. Like, oh my gosh, I have never done anything like that before. So back to landscape. It is beautiful in Brenham, Texas. And the other thing that you're going to want to do is stop by a barbecue place. Right before I arrived at the Firemen's Training Center, I picked up some barbecue at this place called Brenham's Barbecue Deli and Bakery. And I had the brisket with original sausage, mashed potatoes, which was really like loaded mashed potatoes. It was so good. Green beans, and then I ordered a coffee to go and a apple-filled empanada. Delicious. It was so hard not to buy a homemade pie, and they had several pies there. This quilt is so tropical. It just makes me smile. There really were so many different techniques and styles of quilting at this show. There's another fun booth with patterns that had curves and strips. I was definitely tempted to get something from there, but then I backed out because I just think that that would be too hard for me where I am in my quilting skills. So the goal is to get there, right? One day I will, but little by little I will build up my skills. A lot of these quilts here, I think, were some that were for charities, and then others were just for different exhibits. If you live near Brenham or in Brenham and you would like to learn to quilt or just be a part of a quilting community, there is a bee. It's called the Patriotic Bee, and they were established in 2018, and they've presented over 188 comfort quilts to those who have fought for our country. They meet on the third Monday of the month at Burton St. John's United Church of Christ from 9 to 4. So feel free to check it out if you would like to work on patriotic quilts. We know as quilters that one of the most meaningful ways to give back to the community and make a difference in someone else's life is using our talents for good. And it really is so meaningful to the people who receive it. I always see smiling faces. I've attended a veterans ceremony myself and just got to see the emotion, how it impacted the recipients. And so when we use our talents to make someone else feel better, we really are giving back. And it's so true that a little bit of our hearts goes into every stitch that we make. So if you aren't part of the guild or you would like to join a guild and participate in charities, the Friendship Guild of Brenham is an excellent choice for you, especially if you're in the area. Otherwise, reach out to a bee near you. I know that quilt shops have resources to help you get in touch with the right bee fit. I really had so much fun at this quilt show, and I hope you did too on this virtual field trip with me. Be sure to check out the Texas Trails Quilt Show every year. It's usually hosted at the beginning of the year, just like this year, February 2024. And again, it's been presented to you by the Friendship Quilt Guild of Brenham. If you enjoyed this video just as much as I enjoyed visiting the show, please give me a thumbs up, comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe. It really helps other viewers find my channel and make it more easily accessible to people who just like quilting. And until I see you at the next show, happy quilting! Bye!